We're going to look at the procedure for calculating the endpoints for a confidence interval when we are estimating a proportion. The problem says a waste management company has found that out of a survey of 100 wastes, 80 required managing. Find the 90% confidence interval for the actual proportion of wastes that require managing. The pieces that have to be identified are the number of favorable responses and the size of the sample or survey. X represents the number of favorable responses. N represents the size of the sample or survey. Well, it says here that out of 100, 80 required managing. The sample proportion will be calculated by dividing the number of favorable responses by the size of that sample or survey. So we had 80 favorable responses out of 100 in the survey. That's going to be 0.8. The formula for calculating those endpoints is p hat plus or minus the appropriate z-value times the square root of p hat times 1 minus p hat over n. So p hat, the sample proportion, is 0.8. If we were to go to a table and find the appropriate z-value for a 90% confidence interval, we'd find that it is 1.65. And then times the square root of 0.8 times 0.2 over 100. P hat times 1 minus p hat over 100 over n. If we went through this calculation, we'd first do p hat 0.8 minus this value here, and then we'd do 0.8 plus this value to get the left and right endpoints. That could be done on a calculator. Another option is to go to www.valstate.edu/jmore/calculators/calculators.htm and click on single proportion z interval. That will take us to this page where we would enter the sample proportion, p hat, which we've already found to be 0.8, the sample size, 100, the z-value, 1.65, and alpha for a 90% confidence interval would be 0.1. Notice here it says q hat rather than 1 minus p hat. Q hat and 1 minus p hat are the same thing. If we hit calculate, it'll give us the endpoint. It says with 90% confidence, the population proportion lies between 0.734 and 0.866. So we can interpret our result by saying we are 90% confident that the actual proportion of wastes that require managing is between, I believe it was 0.734 and 0.866. 0.734 and 0.866.